because aside, we'll get on to the one in, one out nonsense, because nobody really believes that that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Labour government seems to think if they call something, then it is that. But it isn't, actually, because we know very well it won't be. But this story on the front of the Times is interesting. Keir Starmer says supposedly he's putting pressure on police chiefs to release more information about offenders. Now, I find that quite staggeringly kind of surprising, because my belief is that last year Keir Starmer was putting pressure on them not to release information as opposed to release information. So what do you make of this about why would the police ever think it was a good idea to withhold ethnicity, nationality and any other identifiable information about suspects in a rape case?
Anybody who's listening or watching who is over the age of 50, shall we say?
Yes.
I've got some very gloomy news for you, if you haven't already worked it out. The policing that you knew has gone forever.
Yeah.
Sadly, that policing that was all about public service, keeping the streets safe, all of that, gone. We now have a massively politicised police service where you have all these senior police officers with their numerous university degrees who are as woke and as liberal and consequently as pernicious and as dangerous as you can imagine, because they've gone so far from that blue-collar occupation that policing used to be into thinking they are now part of the illuminatory, the highly educated, intellectual...
Letters after their name, that sort of thing.
Exactly, right? And this is very relevant to what I'm about to talk about. The College of Policing, okay, an absolutely lamentable think tank that really needs to be disbanded, because therein lies the root of all this pernicious wokery and nonsense kind of thinking. Hands down guidelines about what information should be released about arrested persons. And essentially, it kind of absolves itself of some responsibility, because it says it's at the discretion of chief constables. Well, chief constables, I can give you numerous examples of appalling chief constables who are really not friends of the people, and they are just politicised creatures. And so Warwickshire, when these two Afghan men get charged with rape, of course there is now a court case that is going to follow, they decided within themselves to not release the details, background, ethnicity and the such like of those two men. But of course somebody knew, somebody had a whisper, because the story found its way to the Sun, and the Sun managed to discover who these people were and where they were from, and of course that built the pressure, and eventually they've relented. But of course they're now hiding behind there's a court case, so they'll say
so we can't talk about it,
and that's fine. I get that, of course.
But at least we know that they were migrants. At least we know that they were staying locally in a hotel and all of that, right?
Exactly. And so people should know, because people, as you mentioned in your introduction, are protesting at numerous locations around the country about having these illegal migrants parachuted into local hotels, and consequently their communities are being blighted by unacceptable behaviour, by some of these people committing crimes for which they're being arrested and charged, hence all the disquiet. It's almost like echoes of last year to a certain extent.
It is. And because now, the problem to an extent hasn't changed. It's the same problem, isn't it?
Well, it very much is, in terms of these people committing crimes, blighting communities. The problem's the same in terms of ridiculously high numbers of people, undocumented, who we don't know the background to, we don't know their education, we don't know their intentions, we don't know what they're doing coming to this country, apart from to get a home for free and get benefits and all the such
bring in
like.
38,000 members of their family.
Correct. And there is massive disquiet. So as the numbers increase in terms of people getting arrested and charged, the police are going to have to confront this issue and say, well, do we act honestly and transparently and tell the public who they are? Will that cause disquiet? Or do we try and hide their identities and where they're from and the fact that they're migrants? But of course, that will leak out eventually.
Of course it will, and that will cause even more disquiet.
Correct.
And we know, for example, I mean, the front page of, and this is related in a way, funnily enough, Iran asking the Taliban for a spy kill list. You know, we know how terrible that story ended up being when there was the government had to actually apply for a super injunction so that the public couldn't be told about the fact that tens of thousands of Afghan men were being imported into the country under cover of darkness in unmarked planes, literally in the middle of the night, right? And we also know, because this was a cabinet document from last October, that in all of the areas of where there was, you know, disorder last summer after the Southport killings, they were all areas which had been flooded with Afghan refugees. So people's, you know, tensions were at a very high point. And the same now, you know, an awful lot of people, I mean, according to Warwickshire Police, yesterday they said this: once someone is charged with an offence, we follow national guidance. This guidance does not include sharing ethnicity or immigration status. Now, yesterday they said that it was national policy not to do it. So it's either guidance or policy. Which is it?
Yeah, well, there you go. College of Policing and police services not being open and honest and transparent like they should be, hiding behind words. But you know what? This might sound like a bit of a quantum leap, but it's not, because it is so utterly, utterly relevant. This all cuts across one of the huge issues of the day that people are hugely concerned about, which is freedom of speech. Because people want to speak freely about who it is that's been charged about a crime. Of course. They want to know, they want to speak about it. So many people out there that I speak to, including Tony, who approached me in the Boozer on Friday night, said he's a massive fan of you and the show, listens every Tuesday, gives him a buzz as he drives off to work. People are afraid about speaking openly and truthfully. They truly feel that free speech in this country is being suppressed, and it is a matter of huge public disquiet.
Absolutely right. Nigel Farage in The Sun today, pages 6 and 7, end the cover-up. He's accused police of a cover-up over these 2 Afghan asylum seekers charged over the rape of a 12-year-old girl. He said it's absolutely disgraceful that their immigration status was not revealed to the public by Warwickshire Police, and he's now demanding that all forces release the name, address and immigration background of anyone charged with serious crimes. I mean, he's right, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. If we're going to be open and honest, and that's what the police should be. They should learn. But, you know, when they talk about setting up elite units to monitor social media and all that kind of stuff, they are so distanced and so unaware of what the public are thinking. I'm staggered.
It's amazing, isn't it, how much they don't know?
Yeah, because, of course, they're not in communities. They claim to it. No, they pander to minority communities. That's what they do. They're not really... In policing, there are 2 communities you really need to bother yourself with. The first community is people who are victims of crime, of course. The second community is people who commit crime. They're who you should be engaging with. In other words, slapping the handcuffs on them and sticking them in the back of the van.
Exactly right. I mean, yesterday, Reform got another defection, a major one. Conservative Rupert Matthews, who was elected Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire and Rutland in 2021, he actually has said antisocial behaviour has turned town centres and high streets into apocalyptic wasteland of lawless Britain. He says we need to cut the dark heart of wokeness out of the criminal justice system and allow the police and courts to get back to what they're supposed to be doing, which is keeping our community safe, exactly as you say, you know. And that's the kind of thing people want to hear from the police. But that's, you know, but that's what we don't hear.
I make no apology for reiterating this. Policing used to be a blue-collar job. It was a working-class job. But it was a good job with reasonable pay and a decent pension at the end of it. That's what you would get for 30 years of largely being unpopular, you know, with criminals and the such, like working antisocial hours, weekends, early, late at nights, all that kind of stuff. That was the trade-off. Now, these senior police leaders have moved it completely away from that into some kind of intellectualised load of nonsense. And the public are not fools. They realise that. It's another reason why trust and confidence in the police has absolutely tanked.
Yeah.
They're not there for us.
No.
They don't investigate our burglaries. When the tools get nicked out of our vans, when the cars get nicked, they're not on the streets. They're not maintaining law and order. They're letting the criminals and the hoodlums run ragged.
Yeah.
Shoplifting is rampant. So is so much other antisocial behaviour. And where are the old bill for me, my missus, my kids, my neighbours, my community? Where are they? Flag waving or engaging with some other minority community because they think that's the thing to do.
Yeah, well, they're studying Twitter to see whether you might have said something nasty about migrants.
Yeah.
You know, unbelievable. Absolutely ridiculous. I agree with Peter regarding our police, says Nan in Wales. Time to start again. Stop police college, stop career police, and start calling a police force again with proper bobbies. Absolutely right. And one from Heather, who says 50 years of James Whale putting the world to rights, that's some legacy. He has left us a platform to put our views on the airwaves and speak our minds. He always spoke his mind and he is unique in every way. Glad he is at peace. And actually it's an interesting point to make that, because James Whale did give people a voice, and he did give people the ability to say what they thought, and he gave them the confidence to do that, because that's what he did. And I think if that's his legacy, then long may it be the case that we can all still speak up and have a go at whoever it is that we're not agreeing with, you know?
Yeah, especially when now so many members of the public feel that free speech is being eroded. And just to remind them that it isn't, OK?
Yeah.
Let me say, I am concerned that in my lifetime, the amount of Muslims in the UK has gone from 29,000 to 4 million.
Right.
OK? I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Is it Islamophobic? No.
I don't think so.
Is it a genuine concern? Yes.
Yes.
Do I have the freedom of speech, especially on this channel, to say it? Yes.
Yes.
And we can say it in pubs, in the street, OK? You're not breaking the law. By the same token, you can say in the pub, in the street, in the workplace, you should be able to say, I am concerned about unfettered illegal migration into the country. Has that broken the law? Is it prejudicial? No, no, no. It's the truth. We are free to say it. People, members of the audience, free speech has not disappeared. We have to use it. Don't break the law. Don't say something stupid. But free speech exists and we need to be using it.
Exactly right. Don't let whoever it is that tells you that you can't have it let you stop saying things, because it's pretty important to keep saying them. Let's get a voice note from Johnny.
Morning, Mike. It's Johnny in the van. Just wanted to say thanks for all the fabulous tributes to James Whale. He really was the godfather of talk-based radio. And he'll be dearly missed by all of us listeners as well. Keep up the good work. Thanks, mate.
Johnny, thanks very much indeed, and good luck with the working day. Like many people out there today, 6:24 in the morning, on his way to a long day's hard graft, I'm sure. 24 minutes past 6, as we say. Peter Bleksley's here. We've got plenty to talk about. A couple of really interesting stories, right? And I'll just mention these, and we'll talk about them later. A zoo in Denmark has actually asked people to bring their unwanted pets to the zoo so that they could be fed to some animals. Yeah. Which I find absolutely horrific. Worse than that, there's another zoo which has fed a load of baboons to the lions. Yeah. What's going on in the zoos of this world?
Well, the baboon population had ballooned. That's not easy to say clearly. Right? So, and they had to cull some of them. Right. So they thought, well, what they're going to... They did try and house them, by the way, in other zoos and all that kind of stuff.
Should have just brought them to Dover.
Well, yeah.
And we could have housed them in Leicester or somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so they killed these baboons and then fed them to the lions.
Doesn't sound right, though, does it?
Well, of course it does. Now, you see, we're going to be at complete odds over this, right? Complete odds, right? Apparently this zoo, I think it was in Frankfurt, had 300 complaints about seeing lions eat baboons. Right. Lions eat things. In fact, lions should be able to eat live things. So what I'd have done if I was director of the zoo
them into the field.
is I'd have put a big trigger warning up there and I'd have publicised it, and I said, but tomorrow live baboons are being fed to the lions, right? You know, good opportunity to stick another quid on the ticket price and all that kind of stuff. Keep the kids away if they're going to be traumatised, right? Put them in there. What a bit of sport. I watched, and there's an Attenborough story bouncing around today. I watched an Attenborough documentary the other day. My wife and one of the boys was watching it, so I just had a brief glimpse at it. It was so woke, it was unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
It was about a pride of lions hunting a baby hippo
Right.
and 2 adult hippos trying to protect it. They didn't show any of the capture,
Right.
any of the kill,
Right.
any of the eating of it.
Right.
No, because that would upset too
that's
many
too
people.
upsetting, yeah.
Yeah, so by the same
Even
token...
though it's the natural world.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it's a kind of unnatural world. Stick the live baboons in with the lions, add a couple of quid to the ticket price, I'll be at the front of the queue. What entertainment.
I've got an idea for Richard Attenborough's next show. You call it Fake Planet. Let's see how that gets on. Anyway, we'll be back after this with loads more about even the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, saying we're too reliant on immigration and it's screwing up Britain. Really? We could have told you that. This is Talk. Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 6:30, I'm Mike Graham. It is, of course, Tuesday the 5th of August. Pardon me. There was a storm that hit Scotland yesterday. There was also caravans knocked over and lots of trees down and stuff like that. We'll be talking about that coming up in a little while. Didn't really affect the rest of the country, I don't think, as far as I can tell anyway. Andrew from Salisbury says, James Whale will be greatly missed. Just a normal guy who was massively talented. He made entertaining broadcasting look easy. That's very true. This from Steve in Germany. My most sincere and deep condolences to James Whale's wife and family, and of course to everyone at Talk. I used to listen to James on Metro Radio in Newcastle whilst on leave from the RAF, one of the best radio programmes I've ever heard. Always made me sad when I had to go back to Huntingdon as I could not hear Metro. What a very great loss, RIP James. So many lovely things being said by the people who listened and watched him, because he was just a remarkable character. There's nobody really like him. I think we've got another clip. Have a look at this one. This is him clashing with Tim Spears from Just Stop Oil.
Roughly 100 species go extinct every single day, so 10,000 a year.
How many? Do you not understand
So
that's what happens?
you just interrupted me again.
No, but
James.
you're going on
How are you
trotting
going to
this
learn
out.
if you keep interrupting me?
Don't patronise me. You're very close to the
I'm
frigging
learning
door.
from you. I learn from you. You're the best. I learn from the best.
You're very close to the door. What you say, you have the right to say, but you do not have the right to say your view is more important to all the rest of the people.
We're talking about the annihilation of all life on Earth, James.
We're not annihilating all life on Earth.
I mean, he just was so brilliant at dealing with those characters, you know, and eventually they'd all get thrown out of the studio, you know, at some point or other. Speaking of throwing people out, small boat migrants to be deported this week. Apparently today is the day that this one-in, one-out cobblers begins. Can you imagine, right? We unfortunately haven't got the resources to do it, but if we did have, I would have somebody standing on the cliffs of Dover with a pair of binoculars, just looking out to sea for the first boat coming in on this day, August the 5th, Tuesday, because for every one coming in, there won't be any going out.
I wonder if when a dinghy full of 70 of them arrives on the beach at Dover, I wonder if they'll empty them all off.
Yeah.
Turn the big dinghy round and put the single bloke in it, right? The one that's going back, right? And you just see him sailing off back towards Calais or Boulogne or whatever.
Well, it's not very clear how this is going to work, right? Because supposedly we're going to detain these people, right? We're going to somehow, in a fairly speedy manner, work out that they don't have the right to be here, and we're going to send them back only to exchange them with some people on the other side who do have the right to come in because they've got family here.
Well, so the person...
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, so the person in France has to fulfil certain criteria.
Right.
They mustn't have tried to get into the UK illegally before.
Right.
Okay. And they must have a strong qualifying claim.
Right.
For asylum.
Right.
In the UK. So how are we going to find those people? Have we got a processing centre in France?
No.
Not that I know of.
No.
So are we
just going to ask them? Excuse me. Have you tried, Mr. Bleksley? Have you tried to enter Britain illegally before?
No.
Okay, then in you come. There you go. There's the process.
Yeah. So are they going to send people?
Do you have
out
some
with
family
a
here?
clipboard?
Do you have some family here?
Yeah.
We.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What's his name? Mohammed. Where does he live? Leicester.
Yeah.
Great. In you come.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
Will they literally parachute a couple of border force or immigration officials with a clipboard to go round those migrant camps?
Right. Well,
So
listen.
Who's got a strong claim?
Keir Starmer, remember him? He posted an 8-second video last night on border security. Maybe he can tell us how it's going to work. That's it. Is that it? That's the video. So he hasn't even voiced it, he just posted that. So there's an extra 100 million quid going somewhere to secure Britain's borders and to smash the snuggling gongs.
With a geezer on a roof.
Yeah.
With some kind of telescope. Yeah.
I mean...
100 mil.
Yeah.
Oh, he's well paid, isn't he?
I know. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Maybe we can have Angela Eagle, maybe she can tell us what's going to happen.
When our French colleagues change their tactics, we have to change our tactics to adapt to the changing tactics of the people smuggling gang.
So it's all about tactics. We were doing this yesterday. I suggested 4-4-2 against the people smuggling gangs and see if that works. Although you could have more of a sort of diamond formation, obviously, if you're playing at home.
Yeah, wing backs, send one wing back a week.
False number 9 and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what you could have. But it's nonsense, isn't it? It says here, Britain has ratified a treaty with France that allows those arriving in the UK on small boats to be detained and returned across the Channel. Detained where? We haven't got a detention centre, right? It is believed that about 50 migrants will be returned to France each week, with the numbers expected to climb by the end of the year. There's thousands of people arriving every week. We're going to send 50 of them back.
The human rights lawyers are already sharpening their pencils, OK? Ready to go into battle with this pathetic government.
Yes.
Because they will say their detention is unlawful. Where are they being detained? Under what powers are you detaining them?
Right.
Release them, release them. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know this is going to happen. And but this government, it's been in for over a year now. Surely you have sufficient time to sit people around a table and go, right, what needs to be done? What are we going to do?
And what can we do?
Yeah, well, yes, indeed. But what can we do that is lawfully audacious, shall we say?
Yes.
That you imagine if you've got that clown and of Attorney General Hermer sitting next to you, Starmer's big human rights lawyer chum from years back, OK, who quite frankly has represented so many people that have been enemies of this state. I question Hermer's attitude sometimes and what his motivations are. You've had plenty of time to sit round and get a grip of this and be courageous enough to say, look at what Greece did last week. Greece, OK, their immigration and asylum minister, right, Greece, part of the EU, their immigration and asylum minister brilliantly went, nope, for 3 months, no asylum, no processing, you're all going into a prison.
Into a detention centre, which they're building on Crete, right?
Yeah, and they've loaded them all in there, and they're not taking anybody.
No.
Anybody that arrives in Greece next 3 months, straight into this detention centre. And there's no asylum, and they're all going to go back.
Yeah. And that's a great idea. Now, apparently, this was supposed to come into to fruition at the end of this month, but they decided to move it forward a bit.
Yeah.
And it says, as part of the quid pro quo, the UK will take an equal number of migrants from France if they have not attempted an illegal crossing before, as you said. These will be subject to full documentation and security and eligibility checks. Well, what if they haven't got a passport? What are you going to do then? Say you can't come?
All that's missing from that line is terms and conditions apply.
Terms and conditions may apply. Even the Office of Budget Responsibility are complaining about immigration. They say in The Sun today, immigration is creating serious problems for public services. Again, this is something I've been saying for years. That, you know, why do you think it's so difficult to get a doctor's appointment? Why do you think it's so hard to get onto a waiting list to get your stuff done on the NHS? Because there's more people here than there used to be, right?
Yep.
And the Office of Budget Responsibility urged the government to target the out of work here rather than rely on mass migration. Immigration delays the impact of the ageing population and is the driver of population growth. Some conclude a faster rise in the population will be beneficial in alleviating acute underlying fiscal pressures, but there are serious problems with that idea. Of course there are serious problems with that idea, especially if you're importing a load of people who can't do anything, who aren't skilled at anything, who can't be employed to do anything other than drive around on a bleeding bike delivering hot food.
Yep, and all of those quotes you read out sit under the banner headline on page 2 of The Sun today. Official, migrants straining services. Well, how long have you been saying that?
I know.
A very
long time. Longer than this government's been in.
Yep, and how long has everybody else on the street saying it? And remember, you can say it, everybody. Freedom of speech is very important. Let's utilise it.
Yeah. Absolutely right. How about this? One from Jean in Newcastle. She says, "Morning, Mike. I usually agree with everything that Peter has to say, but I would hope his tongue was firmly in his cheek when he was talking about the zoos on the continent. When he describes what he describes about Attenborough's programmes is in the wild and not animals in captivity. The majority of zoos are, in my opinion, immoral places. However, I will forgive Peter on this occasion. Please keep up the good work." You know, shocking, absolutely shocking. I'm pretty sure that Peter wouldn't actually encourage there to be live animal sacrifices, even in Denmark, where they do some very odd things, I'm telling you, in the public domain. But that's another question. It's 6:39, back after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:41. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Peter Bleksley is here, of course. It's Tuesday, the 5th of August. A lot of people really not happy with you, Peter, about the lions. Love Tuesdays with Peter, but that wasn't a good look today, talking about lions eating live baboons, and he'd be willing to pay a couple of quid extra to watch it. Come on, think again how that went down, says David, South London. And I think in tribute to James Whale, I think you take these things in the spirit in which they were intended. I'm sure you weren't actually thinking of paying money to watch animals killing each other. But listen, we live in a free world. You know, sometimes you say things that people don't agree with. Sometimes you say things that upset people. It's just the way of things, isn't it?
It is. And to all those people that I've upset this early on a Tuesday morning, well, you know, get a sense of humour.
Get a sense of humour, exactly right. Page 1 of the Telegraph, they've got... oh, no, it's not that one, is it? Where's the
Guardian.
It's
page
the Guardian.
One of the Guardian.
Sorry, that's why. Right? Yeah, because I'm actually... Because I'm generally sort of diametrically opposed to ever saying those words.
Yes.
Page 1 of the Guardian.
Yeah.
Police warned of mass arrest. This is because Palestine Action, it turns out, over the weekend had said we're going to have a sort of mass protest that's going to be so big that the police won't be able to arrest everybody.
Yeah.
And the police are now saying, well, if you do that, we'll just arrest everybody.
Yeah. So the 5th of July, Palestine Action became a proscribed organisation. So fairly recently, the police have arrested a number of people, not only in London but in other locations around the country. Since then, people who have been showing or expressing support for this terrorist group, and they've been arrested. There has been a legal challenge, to Palestine Action being prescribed, and the High Court has granted a hearing for this, which I think is scheduled for September. So word on the street is that the police haven't charged or cautioned any of the people that they've arrested from Palestine Action yet.
Right.
They're going to wait and see the outcome of this legal challenge.
Right.
I think the organisation will remain prescribed because it's not only RAF jets, of which they caused millions of pounds worth of damage to, that this organisation have been doing. They've been repeatedly targeting business, causing tens of millions of pounds worth of damage. There's also stuff that's gone to the High Court that has not entered the public domain that they've been up to. I think they will remain a terrorist organisation. So anyway, there's plans at the weekend. They're trying to rally hundreds of people to come to the streets. What the intention is, really, they would like to overwhelm the police. But the police have been very forthright in saying, bring as many as you like, we're going to nick you all.
Right.
And they have to, of course.
And that's good. They have to, don't they?
They have to. So it would be very, very foolish. Of course, if the police actually screwed their loaves here, what they would do is they would have intelligence on where people are coming from. So the minute people walked up to a railway station, well, whether that be in Grantham or Guildford or Gravesend,
nick 'em there.
and they got a Palestine Action banner, boom, you're nicked, before they can kind of gather together, shove them in the back of the van, process them there, take the heat away from a mass gathering, so to speak. But we shall have to wait and see. They've had plenty of notice of this, the police. They should be across it. They should be being audaciously and lawfully creative in how they're going to deal with it. And my, not that I'm sure anybody from your audience is going to be daft enough to do it, but if anybody's tuned in by mistake and you're from Palestine Action, do you know what? don't do it.
Yeah, stay away.
Really don't do it.
Yeah, because, exactly right. I mean, some of these people just need a bit of a sort of a wake-up call to the reality of what actually happens to you when you get arrested, and what then happens to you after you get arrested and charged.
Yeah, and get a criminal conviction. Yeah. You get a criminal conviction for a terrorist offence.
Yeah.
Okay, don't expect to go on holiday to too many places.
No, exactly.
Don't expect to get too many jobs.
No.
Don't expect to be made welcome.
I can't imagine it to be that good for your credit rating either.
No, exactly.
You know?
It's a foolish, daft, stupid thing to do. Not only that, but if you draw police resources away so that you're arrested for your selfish protest in central London, then don't have a moan if a victim of crime where you live doesn't get a service from the old bill on that Saturday afternoon. Or whatever it may be.
Because they're all busy trying to, corral a bunch of lefty idiots.
Because they'll have been drawn away from elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly right. Speaking of police action, there is a charge in this case as well, but the family of a Saudi Arabian student who was stabbed to death in Cambridge have warned that the UK is no longer safe for visitors. Now, this is a very damaging thing to say, and you have to say you can't disagree with it. This guy seems to have been the victim of some kind of random attack. He was a young man brimming with enthusiasm, brimming with chivalry and courage. His name was Mohammed Al-Gassim, 20 years of age, living in Cambridge, stabbed to death apparently for no particular reason.
Yeah, he came here from Saudi for a 10-week course at a college in Cambridge, and tragically had his young life cut short. A 21-year-old man has been charged with murder and is in custody. There are some glowing tributes from family members from Saudi, one of whom goes on to say how lawless Britain is.
Yeah.
And I've always found, and please don't think that I'm being disrespectful here or downplaying it, I'm using this comparison to reflect what happens with bad experiences. There's an old adage, isn't there, that if you go to a restaurant and you have a good experience, you'll tell 3 people about it or something. If you go to a restaurant and have a bad experience, you'll tell 20 people or some such number.
Right.
You tell way more people about your bad experiences than you do your good. And this is a similar kind of thing, albeit of tragic circumstances, of course. And this gets big headlines on page 13 of the Mail today.
And it's got big headlines in The National, which is a newspaper over in the Middle East, and that's the other problem, right? Because that's where people will read it.
Exactly. So when you think about so many people from the Middle East, wealthy people from the Middle East, that come to the UK in summer because the weather out there is unbearable in the Middle East, when it's 40, 45 degrees, many people travel to the UK for a month or two. Yeah. These are very wealthy people.
Most of them are in Oxford Street at the moment.
Yeah, and they have bodyguard teams, right, which are British. Yeah. So there's a lot of money going into the British economy with employment opportunities. Yeah. There are chauffeurs, of course. Yeah. There's staff
and
that
that's
wait
not to
on
mention
them.
the money they spend in shops and all the rest of it.
And the hotels, renting exclusive properties. Yeah. They plough a whole heap of money into the UK economy. Yeah. And they only stay here for a month or two, and then they go back. And they come here every year as long as they feel, number one, safe, as long as there's nice places they can go shopping. Yeah. These kind of stories could potentially impact upon that boost to the economy that London gets every summer. Yeah. That's why it's so important that we live in a country that is safer than sadly it is at the moment. Yeah. We need to get a grip.
Yes, we really do. One place where they are getting a bit of a grip, Hounslow Council, on the same page in the Mail, page 13, they've now decided to ban those Lime e-bikes, which is the best decision I've heard of a local council doing for a long time. They're not getting rid of e-bikes altogether, they're just these particular ones, because these are the ones that people just leave sort of strewn on the pavement, and they're not very good, it seems, on tidying them up and cleaning them up. So they've given the contract to a different outfit, one called Forest, I think, which I've seen around. But these Lime bikes are right old menace, aren't they?
I see them regularly outside this building as well. You've got to be careful not to trip over them. Right. And, of course, you also see people on them, you know, when they're cycling along and they're going click, 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 click. That's because they haven't paid.
That's because they haven't paid, yeah.
Yeah, that's because they're fraudulent, thieving so-and-sos. And I see that far too frequently. Yeah, I think they are a nuisance. They're unsightly.
Yeah.
And there's
too many of them.
Away.
There's too many of them. I mean, I think there's something like 30,000 or something bikes now in London, which is there's just too many of them. I realise people like travelling that way, and lots of people think it's clean and for the environment and all that. But it's changing the face of London, and it's making people walking around actually have to look in all sorts of directions to make sure they don't get clattered into by somebody. But that is a problem. We've got one more section of the show to do. Let's read a couple more of these. Gaz in Scunthorpe says, Mike, admittedly I'm not an asylum seeker, but I'm pretty sure if I entered any country or overstayed my visa, I would soon be sent home and I wouldn't be allowed to roam around with free bed and board and pocket money. I think that is very safe to say. Good morning, Mike and Peter. So pathetic, useless Starmer, this one-in, one-out deal will take forever, and spending another 100 million on top of the 550 million they've spent already and the 700 million spent on Rwanda. What a waste of money, says Sharon in Staffordshire. Yeah, I don't know where they keep finding all this money from. But we'll be back with more from Peter Bleksley after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory at 6:55, very nearly the end of the first hour. Peter Bleksley's here. We're going to have another little clip of James Whale for you. We've been celebrating his life for the past, not quite 24 hours, but very nearly. We're going to be playing clips throughout the course of the show this morning. Here's James Whale questioning UFO hunter Tony Topping over his evidence that aliens exist.
Is it that one there?
No, that's a visual of the UFOs over my house. That's an actual visual analysis.
Can you see that? Two little white spots?
James, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not happy with the way the interview's going. I feel you are taking the mick out of me. That's my artwork.
It's proof. Sorry,
that's my artwork, James. You're insulting my artwork.
That's you just told me that's
my
proof.
Art. That's my art. Goodbye.
You said that was your proof. Good riddance. No, you're fine. You've got no answer.
You're a disgrace.
Bye-bye.
My point was
Ted, take him out.
Gone off on the
Ted,
wrong
take
foot.
him out. You had the chance. You wanted it shown. Then go. Be very disappointed and go.
Let's be clear. You've mocked my artwork.
How many more times? Good.
I'll leave it with you.
Good. You carry on.
Nice to meet you, man.
Goodbye.
Nice to meet you.
Honestly. You know, what is wrong with these people who believe these ridiculous things?
Quite liked him.
And they go, and don't hang around in the control room and let him start talking to everybody else, or I actually will come out and sort things. Sorry about that, Wayne.
You didn't use your buzzer, actually. I was thinking you
should have done that, shouldn't I? Yeah.
Brilliant. Ash, of course, very much part of the whole scheme there. Going, I thought he was quite a nice guy. We got off on the wrong foot. Brilliant. I mean, he's so understated, Ash, you know, and poor old Ash is quite upset about it all, I think, because naturally they were very good mates, amongst other things. Let's talk about what were we going to talk about? United States building a nuclear reactor on the moon. How about that?
Yes.
It's quite ambitious, isn't it?
Yes. I wonder what James Whale would have made of this story. I'd like to have had somebody from the US come into James's studio to discuss building a nuclear reactor on the moon.
First it's the White House ballroom, next it's the nuclear reactor on the moon.
Yeah, it's about as much credit as I'm going to give this story, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, you know, what will happen is they'll get up there and start putting the foundations down, fracturing the foundations, and they'll find that China's already done it. There's already a Chinese nuclear reactor that they built about 10 years ago.
You know, when it comes to stories about the moon and, the Chinese are going to send a rocket up there and put a man on it, I'm very fortunate to have been 10 years old when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. And we were all up watching it on the telly. And it was mind-blowing.
It was.
For a 10-year-old.
I was similar watching it in school, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. So for me, everything else to do with the moon thereafter is just like an anticlimax.
Do you know, I once had to contact Neil Armstrong about something when he told me to F off.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of slightly punctured my vision of him, really, to be honest.
Wow. I mean,
I'll tell you what it was. It was when the Challenger blew up. Do you remember when the space shuttle blew up? And so in the usual form, I get a call from I was working in New York. A call from the news desk, you know, can you try and get hold of some people? So somehow, and in those days, you could find people. And I found him, and he was working as a professor at some college in Chicago. Yeah. And it was one of those mad conversations where I rang him, and he answered the phone. Oh, hi, is that Neil Armstrong? Yes. Is that the Neil Armstrong that walks on the moon? Yes. I'm sorry to bother you, I'm calling you about this terrible accident. And he said, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, well, you know, it would be great if you could just give us a quote. And then I kept trying and trying. And he eventually told me to F off, put the phone down.
I see both sides of that story.
Oh, yeah, I knew you would.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
It's one of those.
I do,
but there we are. And finally, BBC admits David Attenborough's new documentary was filmed in a fish tank.
I mean,
I think that ends our animal hour.
Yeah. If only they put some piranhas in there. Oh no, I've got in trouble again.
Stop.
Oh, sorry.
Just
More
stop it.
emails.
Come on.
Sorry, everybody. It was only a gag.
Mark in Selby agrees with you. He says maybe Peter is onto something. Let's have a silverback versus polar bear pay-per-view. Listen, we're just in memory of James Whale having some fun, okay?